Well, hello there. Welcome back to another Shed Chat Live with me, Jennifer Kirk, and I've got wet hair, so don't think that I'm greasy. It's not that. I've just got out of the bath because I've been up in the loft doing a lot of work on lining it out, really, ready for a model railway. There's no model railway construction going on at the moment, but I've been doing the insulation, and it's one of those things whenever you build something for your model railway to go in, like a shed or a loft conversion, there is so much work, is there not, before you have to before you actually reach a point where you can actually do the fun stuff. I'm probably quite a little while away from actually even being able to build the baseboards, let alone the fun stuff like lay track and run trains. But it's going really well, and I've been following some of the advice. I've been having a respiratory mask, which I was going to do anyway, honest. So I haven't been huffing too much in the way of nasty dust and stuff. Actually, it's not been too bad up there. The insulation is not fiberglass. Pretty much all the insulation that's up there was put up there by me. When we moved in, the house was woefully deficient in insulation, so bought loads and loads of the stuff, and it's actually recycled plastic bottles is what it's made of. Don't ask me how they make it from plastic bottles, but apparently they do. So a lot of the dust that's up there is actually just from the cement on the underside of the tiles, and I've been if you watched the last video that I put up, which looks very much like some kind of found footage horror thing, because we were using an infrared lens on the camera because of the low lighting, just to make sure that everything was visible, even though there is actually a light up there. But you probably in that saw all this plastic sheeting which is been put up there by the previous owners of this house, and I roll my eyes, ceremoniously roll my eyes, because they thought that they were God's gift to DIY, and we're about as far away from being that as it's possible to be. So they kind of crapped up some plastic sheeting just to keep dust at bay. But what I actually managed to do was to collect all of this cement dust and that from the underside of the slates. So when I was taking it down, it was literally raining this fine, horrible, acky dust. But hopefully we're through all that now, and I've used 2-inch thick Ecotherm or Celotex. It's like a solid foam insulation, and it's flame resistant, because what I don't want is sparks from the chimney getting underneath the slate, say in the wind, and then setting fire to stuff. You really don't want that. So it's foil backed as well, and I've fixed that in on the underside of the rafters, and I couldn't fit it between the rafters because, as it turned out, this house was built in 1927, so it's quite old. And what I've been slowly discovering over the past few years, and no more so than when I was up in the loft doing all this work, is that whoever built this house in 1927 did so without the aid of a spirit level or a set square. So nothing's quite square and nothing's quite parallel or where it should be. God knows how on earth they used to make houses, but they really do seem to have been put together any old which way. So consequently, I couldn't fit the insulation between the rafters, because quite simply it would have involved custom cutting every single piece. I'd have had so much wastage, and it would have been a nightmare to do. So I went a slightly different route, and I'm going to put some Jablite insulation. Now, Jablite is, for want of a better expression, it looks like polystyrene. It isn't polystyrene, but it looks a bit like it. And I've got a 1-inch thick layer of that that's going on the inside of the Ecotherm boards, and then there's going to be thin plywood on the inside. And it all makes sense when you see it, but that's where we're up to. But to go back to what I was saying before, I'm taking on board a lot of the comments that people have said. Like I said before, the insulation up there is not fiberglass. It is scratchy as anything, but it's recycled plastic bottles, so there's no risk of fiberglass fibres, which are pretty nasty things. I'm wearing a breathing mask now, so when you do see the next video, it will sound really muffled, like I'm speaking like this, and that's because, well, it is muffled because I've got a breathing mask on. Let's just see who's in the house. We've got Michael Prodrick, hi to you. Ned's Trains, hi. Castle Junction, hi to you too. Andrew Keeley, greetings from the New York City. Gosh, NYC, New York City, I'm assuming there. Castle Junction, a bit like the house I live in. Yeah, actually, it's weird, isn't it? The number of houses that seem to have been built without the aid of a spirit level or a set square. You do wonder how professional builders go on. We've got Leslie Gilpin, good evening to you. Philip Page, and hi to you too. Yeah, Castle Junction, with all that insulation, you'll be nice and snug. It's funny you should say that. I've not finished up there, but the solid insulation that's foil backed, I can feel the difference. It's really most peculiar. I actually had to look at the weather forecast because I thought it's a bit warm tonight. And I had a look at the weather forecast and it's not. It's about 4 degrees outside. But having 2 to 3 inches of this solid insulation all fitted in, it's actually made a noticeable difference to the rest of the house. It's very peculiar. I wouldn't have thought it would have so soon because there's some big gaps still that wind can just blow through. But yeah, it's made a difference. Let's have a look down. Andrew Keeley, yep, 20 minutes from Times Square. Gosh, I've never been to New York, but it is somewhere that I would love to visit, it has to be said. So it's probably really mundane, isn't it? When you actually live there, you're probably so used to it that you're like, nah, it's just home. And then you probably look at where I live and go, oh, that looks pretty. Some of the videos I've done where I'm out and about, and believe me, when you live here, you just take it all for granted. Let's have a look. Mark Herbert, hello to you. Castle Junction, that's why I cannot use my loft due to all the fiberglass. Well, you can take the fiberglass out. It's very messy. But then there's also, you can use the solid insulation to kind of make it almost like a room within your loft and then clear out all the fiberglass to sort of beyond the room area. So like right down under the eaves, you can just sort of get rid of it that way. So there are ways and means. Let's have a look. RML Bobby D. What time is it, Jenny? Not sure if I've missed this. No, we've actually just started. I started a few minutes before 7 GMT, and that's the usual time. We're doing 7 p.m. GMT on Mondays, and it's the new format Shed Chat. We've done it for a few weeks now. I just think it works a lot better. It's got this more immediacy. I can kind of interact with you all. And we've got today's Shed Chat Live is brought to you with the assistance of Birra Moretti. I think let's just have a look. Does it say on it where it's from? No, it doesn't. Doesn't actually. I'm getting a kind of an Italian vibe out of this. But, oh yeah, there we are. Italian passion for brewing. So, Birra Moretti. It's quite a nice one. So, did dry January, so I'm back on the sauce. Whittershaw Road. Going ahead with that job then. Yeah, the loft conversion is go. And made some really good progress today, actually. The back bedroom is full of that solid insulation. I bought 3 packs. It is not cheap. A word of warning to you. It is not cheap in the slightest. I believe it does about 5.5 square metres. The packs you get, the 10 packs. But they cost me about £52 a pack. Yeah, I know. And I got 3 packs. So it's about £156, something like that, just for the solid insulation. And then on top of that, I need to buy the jab light and the wood. I'm probably not going to get much change out of 500 squids for doing the actual lining of the loft and getting it all ready for when I can actually build the baseboards. But this is in effect adding an extra room to the house. So I think 500 squids for effectively a really nice, all singing, all dancing loft room to build a model railway in. I think that's actually a pretty tidy bargain. So we'll see how it goes. The room, it turns out, is bigger than anticipated, and mostly that's because when I've got rid of all this sort of plastic sheeting that's been stapled up underneath the slates, the whole thing up there is a lot bigger, and I've removed a kind of a temporary wall. Somebody put up basically spit and sawdust to divide off part of the loft, and I've dismantled that and continued the lining of the loft beyond that to actually radically increase the usable space. So I'm really quite pleased about that. Castle Junction, that's not from Aldi, haha. Actually, no, that's I got this from the co-op. Other supermarkets are available. Let's have a look. Andrew Keeley, come on over. Lots of great trains to see. Yeah, actually, I must admit, when I'm watching on YouTube videos of, I think they call it in America, rail fanning, where they'll kind of chase trains on unusual bits of track work and film them. One of the things which I've seen a lot is trains using some very obscure freight-only branches, which really, it's sort of like, talk about off the beaten track. And you're looking at the kind of little short lines which would have gone from the UK by the end of the 60s, and yet they're still there in America being used. And then other things like trains running down the centre of a town, like LaGrange in, I think it's Kansas? LaGrange? I think it might be Kansas. I'm sure somebody will correct me. But the main line just runs straight down the main street, down the middle. It is really, really good to watch. Yeah, I'm hooked watching some of these American obscure lines, and a lot of the industrial stuff as well, because I suppose because the country's so much vaster, it still makes a lot of sense to move stuff by rail. Philip Page, what sort of layout are you planning? Well, I've been planning a homage to Tyne Marshalling Yard, for many, many years now, probably about 10 years. In fact, even before I built Grove Street Yard, and certainly before we moved here and I built Bolton Trinity Road in the shed, I harboured a desire to build a rendition of Tyne Marshalling Yard. Wouldn't be true to scale, obviously wouldn't, because that would be huge, but never quite had the space to do it until now. So I'm thinking that I'm going to try and build a representation of a hump marshalling yard, Tyne Yard ostensibly. But I want to do a double deck layout. There's enough headroom there to be able to lay out the Tyne Yard on a lower level, and effectively it's a scenic fiddle yard, isn't it? But then on an upper level, I kind of fancy doing Kirby Stephen East, with the junction, the line to Warcoppen onto Appleby in Westmoreland, and the other line that goes down to T-Bay, and then the other way that goes across Bella Viaduct eventually, and then over to Darlington. The idea was to do Kirby Stephen East Station and a little bit either side, so you've got the goods yards, the loops and stuff, and connect these two layouts using inclines in the loft somehow, hidden away, so that trains can go between the upper and the lower levels. So the Tyne Yard would allow me to store an awful lot of stock out of the way, but also be scenic, and then Kirby Stephen East would allow trains to run through some pretty impressive countryside. So that's the idea, but we'll see what happens. If anything, I do want a fiddle yard on a lower level, so whether that becomes Tyne Yard or something else, that is going to happen. And we'll just go where we go. Let's have a look. We're getting a nice little community going. Philip Page, thanks for the sub, Castle Junction. Castle Junction, you are welcome, Philip. It's a really good little community we're getting together here. So I'm actually recognising, I think there's a couple of people there as well that I'm sub to. So it's a nice little community. Yeah, Brockwell Lane. Hello, sorry I'm late. Oh, don't apologise. We've only been on the go for about 12 minutes or so. So don't worry about that. Andrew Keeley, short lines are fun, but 150 car freight trains are funner. That might be a bit on the long side. I think my record was around 76 wagons, and that was when I had the Garden Railway going. RML Bobby D. P.S. Did you hear from the York exhibition manager? I have been so snowed under with work. I realised this morning I haven't emailed him yet. I need to do that. Obviously, it's not going to be for York exhibition this year, but what I will do is I'll speak to them about maybe next year. I don't know whether there's like a big waiting list for York Model Railway exhibition. I know it is certainly one of the bigger events, and certainly for the north of England, it's like we always used to be the go-to event. So we'll be. I need to get on top of that. But thanks for reminding me. Castle Junction. I feel a helix coming on. Actually, I have thought about a helix. So it depends on how much height I need to get between the two, the upper and the lower. So I might go for a helix, or what I might do is just go for an incline. Because there is actually quite a lot of space up there. Leslie Gilpin, are you avoiding a helix? Not really avoiding a helix, but I might go that route. We'll see. The Irish Train Guy, hello everyone. Hello to you, Philip Page. Sounds very excited. Yeah, actually, I'm really excited for it, because the main thing about doing this layout in the loft is actually not just about the space, because I reckon I'm going to have 4 to 5 times the space that I have out in the garden shed, if not more, because there's a lot more width as well as length. So there's so much potential, but because we got burgled, the shed got burgled about 6 years ago, something like that. I've always been very wary about leaving anything out in the shed when I'm not actually playing trains, and that is a faff, a huge faff. And the layout in the loft means that I can leave all the stock on the layout, and that's a big deal for me. It means that I can, just go up there and I can just sit with the relaxing sound of trains going round really, really easily, and that is something that I've missed. The shed is good, but it's not really so user friendly, especially in winter when it's so cold and you've got to go outside, especially if it's raining. So this is going to be a big leap up for that. Let's have a look. RML Bobby D. Yes, there is a big waiting list. You need to get in quickly. Send GSY info soon. Yeah, I keep meaning to do it, and it's one of those things. I remember that I need to do it right when I'm in a position where I can't email because I'm like driving somewhere. But I will get that done. I'm not expecting to get there this year, and we'll see whether it's next year or the year after. But I'll get myself in the tube, and hopefully we'll see what comes next. I've always wanted to exhibit at York Model Railway Show. Hot Rod Rodney 25, hi to you as well. Let's have a look. Seabreeze Station, hi, are you going full DCC in the attic? Yes, I will be. I will still retain the ability to run DC locomotives, but behind the scenes, what's been going on? Well, I've been spending oh God, I knew it would turn out like this. But I've been spending hundreds upon hundreds of pounds, it has to be said, on basically lots and lots of DCC chips. I just put a video on in the background, so I'm not just a big talking head on your computers. So I shall have the... we're talking about, well, not the demise of the railway in the shed, but certainly... It will remain running until the Loft railway is up and running. But then after that, I'm not entirely sure whether I will keep a railway in the shed. There really isn't a purpose for it then. I may try and recycle some of the stuff from the shed into the loft. So some of the boards could be reused. Waste not, want not sort of thing. But... I want to retain the ability to run DC, but I'm now at a point where about 35 of my locomotives are DCC fitted. I've done a lot of sound fitted locos as well, but I've also experimented with hard wiring locomotives. The Hornby, ex-Adpull, Lancashire and Yorkshire Pug locomotives. Now, I've got loads of those, really love those locomotives, and what I've discovered is that they are the easiest thing in the world to hardwire DCC fit. I was pleasantly surprised, and at the moment you can buy the Hornby 4-pin DCC chips relatively cheaply. I've been getting them for about £12 a pop, and I believe that if you shop around you can get them for as low as a tenner. And because there's no lighting functions with things like the L&Y pugs, you only need the 4 pins. Effectively, you've got the 2 wires coming off your pickups, 2 wires to the motor. That's all you need, and it makes wiring them up a lot simpler if you're not having to wade your way through all these various wires. And what I've actually discovered is that they've never run so good. They actually run better on DCC than they do on DC. They're so much more controllable. Leslie Gilpin, ouch on the piggy bank converting 30 plus locos. Yeah, I bought 7 DCC chips, which included 3 sound chips, TTS sound chips, and I didn't get much change out of 200 quid, it has to be said. It's a very expensive project. It will mostly be new track. I was just in there, Castle Junction, all new track. I did salvage all of the track from the Garden Railway, but it needs a lot of effort to clean it up, and I will probably use that in sidings where smooth running isn't quite so critical. So I will make use of that, but I will be buying an awful lot of new track. Point work, I tend to get job lots secondhand through eBay. If you hunt around, you can get stuff which has never been ballasted, still in perfectly good condition, but you can get it for a really good price. So to illustrate this, I managed to find a Pico Code 100 double slip. Now normally they go for about £30-35. I paid £2 for that, including postage, so scored on that, and it just goes to show it pays to keep your eye out on things like eBay. Castle Junction, show us how, Jenny. Yeah, I will do. I did a test pug where I didn't want to keep interrupting myself to try and film and photograph stuff because I didn't know whether it was going to work or not. And I was kind of making things up as I went along. So I've done a test locomotive, but what I'm going to need to do is film the next one. And I will do that because I think there's a lot of people who'll be quite interested in how to do that. And I can see the technique with the Hornby 4-pin chips, which are relatively inexpensive, working equally well for a number of other non-DCC ready locomotives. So I think it's something that would be of great benefit to a lot of people. Aaron Izzard, what's happening, dudes? What's going down in Groovetown then? You would be a Red Dwarf fan. Yes, that's what Holly always used to say. Alright, dudes, all ahead, Groove Factor 10. D827 Kelly, evening to you. Let's have a look. What do we got? Russell Benton. Hi Jenny, what do you think of Acura Scale's newly announced Mark 5s and duplication of a Class 92? I must admit, Mark 5s and the Class 92s are completely outside of my area of interest. In terms of duplication of a Class 92, I believe the current Class 92 is an older model and is not generally regarded as being super duper high detailed. I'm not averse to competition, but I think that for certain locomotives and rolling stock, I'd rather see something that somebody else hasn't done already than to get a duplication, which is why I'm quite pleased to see some of the new wagons from Oxford Rail, from Hornby and from Backman, which don't necessarily duplicate each other. The Mark 5s, I think a lot of people are going to appreciate them, but jury's out in the 92. We'll see what's going to happen. Creeping Jane, code 75 bullhead. This is for the Loft layout. No, I'm going to stick with code 100. The reason for that is purely price. I can get job lots of point work relatively easily in code 100 Pico Streamline, but Code 75 is a lot harder to get, and I know my friend Brian's had bad experience with Code 75, so I'm going to stick with Code 100. It's not a bad beer, this, I have to say. Alright, Richard Baker. Hi, I've done my garage out, all insulated and all that. Hope you may have a better job of doing a plan than me. Keep changing my mind. Maybe do a double layer like you're thinking of. Yeah, changing your mind halfway through is the kiss of death to be honest, any number of projects, not just building model railways. Yeah, the double layer of insulation is what I'm doing. And the reason for this is because if you lay it crisscrossed, you don't get gaps that go all the way through, if that makes sense. You're essentially you're covering the gaps between the lower layer with a differently orientated upper layer. And also the jab light is a lot cheaper than the Ecotherm. And a lot easier to use in terms of, it's quite flexible stuff. And I find it gives you a very warm layer. When you actually put your hand on it, it's very strange. It actually feels like the material is warm because it is such a good heat insulator. So for those reasons, I'm doing the double skin. And also, it adds to the sound deadening. The Ecotherm Celotex stuff is very, very solid, so that would tend to transmit sound and vibrations through, whereas the jab light, you can actually squish it a little bit, and that is a lot better at deadening sound. It's what we've done in some of the bedrooms and also this room as well, and it works really well for that. Let's have a look. 57305 Northern Princess. Hi Jenny, finally got around to watching you live. Welcome along, it's always good to have you. And this is what I like about the live chat format. Well, basically, it's very immediate, and I'm actually getting a lot of questions to answer, and I just think it's a much more accessible format. So we're going to be doing this every single Monday from 7 o'clock GMT. So be there or be not a triangle. Let's have a look. Castle Junction, what loco will you be buying next, Jenny? I've actually bought it, but I've started the filming of the review of it, but I haven't finished yet. So I've done all what I call the B-roll footage. I've done the stuff where I filmed it running out in the shed. I filmed the DCC conversion of it because it's been fitted from new with TTS sound applicable to the locomotive. But it's actually the Duchess of Montrose from Hornby. Oh, what are we doing? Hey, get lost, you. So what I'm going to do when... Oops. You should see on your screen now. Here we are. This is actually the locomotive. When it comes up, is that... Yeah, it is thinking about it. This is the next model that I have bought, doing the B-roll footage. Going to do a full box opening and review of this, and it will either be Wednesday's or Friday's video this week. And it's one of the ones which I talked to you about in the... let's just see, can we make... Yeah, there we go. We can make it go full size there. This was one of the new announcements in the Hornby 2019 range, and this is what I like about Hornby over the likes of Backman especially, and also Oxford Rail. They have stuff ready to go, and it really has to be commended, because this was only announced a few weeks ago, and yet I've got one in the back room. I've been running it. They're out there. They're doing really well. And it's the locomotive that I tipped as being like the sleeper of the Hornby 2019 range. And apparently it is selling really well. And the reason that I'm describing it as the sleeper of the range, the base model itself, the Princess Coronation class, sometimes known as the City class, sometimes known as the Duchess class, a lot of people, myself included, I didn't have it brand new, I had it second hand, but our childhood model railways was Hornby 00, because, you know, either you were of an age where that was the premium model that was out there, or you're an age like me where it was dirt cheap second hand, and, you know, maybe your parents had stuff and they brought it down out of the loft and you got to play with it. But I had a Duchess of Montrose, a Hornby 001, and I loved it. So when I saw the new Hornby model, even though, and you know, let's all have a shock here. Look at that price, £189.99. I actually paid £171, but even so, I normally would not buy the Princess Coronation class at this price, brand new. I've bought them. I've bought one second hand before for a much more favourable price, but for this locomotive I made the exception. And then add in that £37 for a TTS chip. So boom, that locomotive's cost me over 200 quid. It's like wow. But there we go. That's going to be it is the next locomotive. I'm just having a look at what else has come out. I'm not really interested in the streamline ones. Duchess of Hamilton, King George VI, the blue BR Blue A3 class of Flying Scotsman. Yeah, it keeps on giving. This one's interesting. The DCR Class 56. The DCR 31 didn't sell particularly well, so I'm intrigued by that. But then we've also the Class 31 has turned up, so just waiting for this to bring up. This Class 31, I think I predicted that this was going to sell really well as well. So it'd be interesting to see. But also the Class 31 TTS sound chip has reappeared in stock. So boom, jobs are good. Not for me. I've got my Regional Railways Class 31. I'm happy with that. I'd probably swing second hand for a BR Blue one if it turned up. Also the Intercity Executive livery one as well. The sort of Swallow Intercity Executive livery. That's another livery of the 31 which I'd go for. But BR Green for these doesn't really tickle my fancy. The other things I've seen which have come out, and this as well, the TTS. I keep going on about the TTS, but I think the TTS range is genius. It's affordable TTS sound, and this is the new one that's just come out. So we've got, it doesn't say anything on there, that's just a generic picture. But this is the Black 5 TTS sound decoder. So this is new to the Hornby range, available separately. And I think, we've seen a huge turnaround of Hornby. They've come out fighting, and they're bringing out the stuff that people want. Castle Junction. I think Hornby have excelled in their range this year. Too right. Alec Ralph, when will you next visit Arcadia? Well, I visited Arcadia on Friday morning, just gone. That's when I picked up Duchess of Montrose. And also the wagon as well. I've got a wagon here. I was going to show you some of that. I bought that second hand, but when you're paying over 200 quid for a locomotive plus TTS decoder, even though there was some nice stuff second hand there, I had to behave myself. Let's have a look. Flymo Chairman one. I just recently saw the modern Hornby catalogue. There's a bit more to it than the ones we got in the 1970s and 80s. Yeah, it's no comparison. Transporting Southeast, my B2 Peckett NCB Blue and Sherwood, and my Hornby Terrier Stepney pre-order done. Boom. Yeah, the B2 Peckett in NCB Blue in particular, but I think the others as well, is going to sell out quick. So if you really want that, you're going to have to get yourself an order in. Get it from your local model shop. Get it, from wherever. Support your local model shop. Really important. Get the order in, and then at least you've kind of bagsied one, because I think they're going to sell out a bit like we saw with the W4. New Mills Model Railway. Hi to you. Good to have you along. Creeping Jane. I had a Triang Princess Elizabeth, but the body warped in the sunlight through the window. Yeah, there's something in the plastic that some of the Triang models were made of that wasn't very resilient, but certainly having stuff in sunlight is never good. I don't think modern stuff would really keep up with it as well. And the comment scrolled off the top, but somebody said Backman have really lost their way. What was that? Hello? I'm just looking at the cameras. No, it's nobody breaking in. I hope not. I think it's next door. There's a big bang, or possibly next door slamming their front door. We do get these sort of disconcerting sounds from time to time, but I'm looking down there. I don't see anything untoward going on, so I think we're good. But yeah, Backman, they've suffered with the losing a factory, but yeah, I think you're right there, Russell Benton. I think Backman have lost it. Too little arriving, too high price, and no better illustration of that than they've announced the Class 411, a new run of that for nearly £400. And it's like, but hold on, you can buy these second hand for about 120, 130. And as I illustrated before, there are some shops that still have in stock the Class 411 from previous releases for around £133. I really don't see them selling that, and I think it's a poor choice from them. Leslie Gilpin, you were lucky at the price of DCC chips for 00. Don't seem to be able to get them for my N-scale model below 30 squids without sound. Yeah, I think that the so the problem with N-Gage is where you put the speaker and the physical size of the chip. My understanding is that if you can find the space to fit a Hornby TTS sound chip into an N-Gage locomotive, it will work just fine. But that's the problem. Can you make it fit? And yeah, I've noticed that I had to buy a Gagemaster DCC23 6-pin chip, quite a small chip, in order to DCC fit the Hatton's Andrew Barclay, because it was really the only chip that would fit. And you pay a premium for that. It doesn't give you any extra functions or anything like that. It's just because it's the one that's small enough to fit. That cost me twice what the chips were costing me for some of the other locomotives. Let's have a look. Alec Ralph, I'll be back. Move back to watching Dean Park Station now. Okay, fair enough. Russell Benton, Arcadia, fantastic shop. Yeah, it has to be said. A lot of people say a lot of good things about Arcadia, and I've never had a bad experience there. I get on really well with Tim, and it's well stocked. It's got a good range of stuff, and he's very, very favourable on the second-hand prices. So it's what's not to like. There are also lots of other model shops as well, which I've frequented, which I will speak equally as highly of. I always get on well with 53A Models in Hessel in Hull. That's been somewhere that I've been going for many, many years. I get on well with the proprietor of Bolton Model Mart. Now, it can be a little bit more expensive, but sometimes it's customer service that is worth so much, and I get on really well, and he's able to track stuff down for me, which is always really, really useful. I'm trying to think of other good local model shops which I've used a lot. I'll be honest, Hatton's. I've generally had good experiences from Hatton's, and where I live, Hatton's is a fairly local model shop. I can actually physically go there. I've never been to Rails of Sheffield, but if you're that side of the Pennines, then you probably got a similar experience with that. I've never been to Invicta Models, but I've got a friend for whom that is he's walking distance from there. Excuse me, and he speaks very highly of them. So there's some really good local model shops out there. But yeah, Arcadia is really good. Let's have a look. Alec Ralph, I bought a second-hand Helgen Class 15 a BR Green at Arcadia last Friday for £49. Runs beautifully. Gosh, so you must have been there when last Friday I went in. That's when I bought the Duchess of Hamilton. I'm trying to think. I don't remember seeing the Class 15, but it just illustrates how quickly stuff moves. I was in there from when he opened at 9:30, and the Class 15 wasn't there. So he does have people trading stuff in, and it comes and goes very, very quickly. I bought this ZDA Bass wagon, which is basically an OBA, long wheelbase open wagon, but in engineer's livery. And the price on that, mint in box, never really been used, 12 quid. You can't go wrong with that. Alec Ralph, do you ever visit the Loco Shed in Whitefield? I have from time to time. It's one of those places I always forget about it because you have to. It's a little bit awkward. You have to come off the motorway, head up towards Whitefield, and then almost do a U-turn on yourself and come back on that other road, which then goes underneath the tram and over the top of the motorway. And I haven't been there for quite some time. I really should go and have a good look around. But yeah, again, he was the gentleman, the guy who runs the Loco Shed in Whitefield. He bought an awful lot of my father and I's Hornby 00 collection, so had good dealings with him. So yeah, it's great. Leslie Gilpin, is the J70 the Rapido product? Really rate their degree of details. Yeah, heard good things said about Rapido. The only potential problem with Rapido is that they are expensive. But you know, in some respects, you get what you pay for, and you know you pay a lot for Rapido, but generally speaking, it's pretty good stuff. There's a lot of attention to detail. The other issue with Rapido is they tend to be almost made to order. They don't do big production runs, so sometimes it can be quite difficult to get the model you want unless you've ordered it. Flymo Chairman 1, I had just seen the 01 system coming out before life tore me away from my loft. I did get the Hornby and Backman magazines this year though. Gosh, 01, that would be late 70s, early 80s. And it's, you know, it's one of the things that it was easy to forget that there was a time when Hornby dominated the market and did really well. And 01, I suppose, was very much before its time. It tried to do what DCC now does, but in an era before microchips were affordable and small. So it was a heroic attempt, but I think, you know, it was too far ahead of its time. But that said, I suppose it built the groundwork for DCC to ultimately turn up, you know, sort of 20 years later. Let's have a look. Dan James, hello to you too. Mallard the Duck, I have no local model shops. Yeah, unfortunately, there are some barren wastelands of model shop free areas of the globe, and that's where mail order comes in. Now, pretty much most local model shops will do mail order if you ask them. It's quite simple to use some of the big hitters, the likes of Rails of Sheffield, Hatton's, Kernow Model Centre, places like that. Invicta Models, another one. And, you know, it's convenient. They've got good websites for being able to find what you want and order it. But if you ring up a lot of smaller model shops, I know Tim in Arcadia as well. It's a funny story, actually. Not the last time I went in, but the time before. He said, oh, I had somebody ring me up and say, that Jenny Kirk says that it's a really good model shop, so I thought I'd give you a try. And he was from somewhere down south. So Tim thanked me. He said, thanks for telling everybody it's a really good model shop. So, you know, he does do mail order. And I know that, you know, pretty much all the others will if you ring them up. I know it can be a faff getting on the phone to them and asking what they've got over the phone. But it's always important to support the local model shops, you know. But if you don't have a local one, then sometimes it's, you know, the only way you can really get stuff. Let's have a look down the comments. Yeah, Alec Ralph had only been there about 30 minutes, I believe. Yeah, certainly it wasn't there at 9:30. So yeah, it's a pretty good score actually. At 49 quid. I really want the one in the Sherwood green, the one that was the carriage heating unit, but in its actual ADB number, the departmental livery. It was sort of like a weird green colour. That's the one that I'd really like, but you know, it's a case of waiting for it second hand. So you really scored with that. Good, you know, good man, legend. Russell Benton, I think the J70 is also a cordless motor. Not sure the effect of that. I'm old DC, so not sure will run well. I'm not really sure. I've heard people say stuff about cordless motors, and I'm not sure whether it's DC or DCC that struggles with them. I'm not sure. I'd have to get back to you on that. But certainly it's something. Google is your friend. Be able to tell you if there's an issue. I don't think there is too much of an issue. I think a lot of people may have overstated the issue, and it may even be the type of controller you're using. So if you're using an older controller, it may have issues, but newer Gauge Master controllers should be fine. Graph B, model railway shops are almost non-existent in my part of the world. Used to have quite a few. Yeah, they used to be a lot more, and unfortunately, it's becoming a bit of a shrinking market. It's a shame, but it's just times are changing. We're competing with computer games. Flymo Chairman 1, space is such a premium, even with even 00 gauge gauge taking up a fair amount. I've received a couple of older sets as a couple of mates went to N gauge just to get more in. Yeah, but then again, you can build small shunting, like fiddle shunting type layouts, and fit them into quite a small space, even in 00. I did Grove Street Yard, and the operating footprint of that is 4 feet by 20 inches, something like that, which, it's not the smallest of layouts, but it's a good size, and you can do an awful lot of stuff in that. So there are ways and means to make use of the space, and I think if you're prepared to go for some quite small locomotives, the minimum radius for 00 is actually quite tight. Brockwell Lane, Jenny, what is a cordless motor? I couldn't tell you. I have to be honest with you. I don't actually know what a cordless motor is. It's probably really obvious if somebody told me, but I don't know. D827 Kelly, the West Midlands is pretty devoid of decent shops. I'm trying to think, West Midlands. So if you can get to Birmingham, there's an Ian Allen bookshop. But the hold on, let me just get rid of. I hate adverts. Oh, dearie me. Horrible adverts. Ian Allen Bookshop in Birmingham in the centre. That's... there's also... Is it Ian Oakes? Or somebody Oakes? There is another one fairly close by. They are out there, but you have to hunt for them. Generally, they're sort of... I'm trying to think where else I know of any. There are some in the Birmingham area, but you have to hunt. So DCC development can be traced back to Lens and Markland developed their own digital control not long after Hornby's Zero. Oh, I never knew that. The UK market wasn't ready yet. We've been behind the times, and actually it took the likes of Backman to shake the market up in the mid to late 1990s, and that pretty much is the genesis of the super detailed, high quality models that we see today start turning up. Philip Page, have you tried Sawyers of Lee? I know of them. Walked past their shop on a Sunday, but never actually been in there. I believe I may have used them whilst at a show. I did the model railway show in Lee, and I believe that they had a stand there, so I have used them before. Creeping Jane, thanks for that. I'll take a look at that afterwards, but the link should be there, dccwiki.com/cordless_motor. James Hart, hi to you. Northern Ireland, we're getting people in from all around the globe. It's good to see everybody. Train Sporting Southeast, my local model shop. What is out my local heritage railway and give you cuppa and chocolate. And I always seem to have something in my hand every time I leave. Yeah, well, it would be rude to leave a model shop with nothing in tow. I always buy something. It doesn't matter which one I go to. Even when I went to Morley in Leeds, I found a model shop. I was going ostensibly to a particular shop for retro computer games for Zoe, but I happened to notice on the Google Street View that there was a model shop over the road from it. So I went in there, and I left like 70-80 pounds lighter. It's just what you do. Oh dear. Let's have a look. Let's have a look. They do a number of good sales. Both of those, yeah. Red Popman shops might be closed because of overhead costs, but the online market is flourishing. There's tons of stuff online. Yeah, Ian Allen closed their Manchester one quite some time ago because rents got jacked up, and that was a shame because that Model Zone were really good in the centre of Manchester, and when Model Zone went bust and Ian Allen shut down in Manchester, all of a sudden, boom, city of Manchester, no good model shops in the centre. Let's have a look. Leslie Gilpin. I remember Christopher Trace building the Blue Peter. Oh yeah, the 01 being shown on Blue Peter. Flymo Chairman 1. Yeah. I don't remember it being shown live, excuse me, but I have seen the clip. So yeah, they did have. I can remember watching them making a model railway on Blue Peter, and that must have been early or mid 80s. Mallow the Duck. I live near the West Midlands. Thanks, Jenny. You're welcome. You're welcome. There's somebody Oaks. I'm wanting to say Tony Oaks, but there's a shop and they have a lot of sales on. And I know they're in that sort of general area. Yeah, A Oaks in Oldbury, 57305 Northern Princess. Thanks for that. Yeah, A Oaks in Oldbury. That I've heard lots of good things about. Especially they have sales where it's for walk-in customers only, so you can't get the mail order. I've never been to that shop, but whenever I see the offers that they're doing, it's like, why can't you be closer? D87 Kelly, a cordless motor has no iron core and can provide rapid acceleration. Right, fair enough. Brockwell Lane, what loco would you like produced in 00? I have to be honest and say that most of the locomotives that I wanted to see produced have now been produced. It's a really good time. I think the 24-1, that particular subclass of the class 24, I've been waiting with interest since Backman announced that, but I'll be honest, I probably won't be getting it unless I can get it second-hand relatively cheap, because I think the price is just going to be astronomical. In terms of anything else, probably looking at, I'd love to see classes 1, class 2, class 6, class 13 be produced ready to run. So yeah, so there's four different classes of diesel that I'd love to see produced. And in terms of other locomotives, I think the Hudswell Clark tanks that ran on the Manchester Ship Canal system, they had sort of strange flangeless centre wheels, and there was also, they had, it looks like a bit like a Hunslet Austerity, but it has outside cylinders. There was at least 2 of those, I believe, on the Manchester Ship Canal Railway. So there's a few bits and pieces, but I'll be honest, I've been spoilt. You know, I've finally seen, a class 14 was always on my hit list, and then Helgen produced that. The W4 Peckett, boom, got that in. What else turned up? The Super D as well. The that was a good score, because that turning up was like, wow, brilliant. Glad for that. What else? I'd love to see a DX Goods. There's the London and North Western Railway DX Goods. But if only because that was a very numerous pre-grouping era locomotive. Let's have a look. James Hart, no good model shops in Northern Ireland. I tend to just buy online. Yeah, unfortunately, I think, where is Murphy's Models? I have a feeling that'll be in the Republic, is it? Or is it in Belfast? I'm not sure. That I know of a shop, Murphy's Models, which does cater for a lot of the Irish railways, but I couldn't tell you where Murphy's Models actually is in Ireland, whether it's in the north or in the south. Transporting Southeast. Last time I went to model shop, I spent £300. Easily done. I know somebody who went to a model shop and came out £2,500 lighter. Now that is a serious spending spree. Adpull, in my local model shop is one in Burton Town Centre, or the Tutbury Ginny in Tutbury. Yes, Tutbury Ginny, I've been there. That's another good one. Let's have a look. The one in Burton Town Centre, I know the one you mean. There's also one, or certainly there used to be one, over in... you come off the junction for the A52 off the M1, and is it Long Eaton? There's like this little side road. It snicks down alongside the motorway if you don't go onto the A52. And you go into Long Eaton, and there used to be a model shop there. I can remember going there a couple of times. Let's have a look. Transporting Southeast. As well. Any news on Great Model Railway Challenge? None at all. It's gone very quiet. They said that they'd be back in touch probably end of February, beginning of March. And, oh God, that's an awful video. Let's just move that one on. They said that they would be... just hold on a moment. Let's get rid of the advert. They said they'd be back in touch either end of February, beginning of March, but it's just simply a case of waiting. Everything's gone quiet for everybody as far as I know. The team's all together. We've got a really good team for this series, and it's just a case of waiting to see if we get confirmed as being in it. Let's have a look. Flymo Chairman 1, beg your pardon for going off subject. Oh, don't worry about it. I'm normally the one who goes off on a tangent and then has to go, meanwhile, back at the ranch and get back on topic. 57305 Northern Princess. I'd love to see some great central coaches for the Butler, Henderson and Friends. Yeah, the Barnum coaches. Actually, that's a good point. When it comes to rolling stock, I think that there's an awful lot of pre-grouping era rolling stock that I'd love to see. Particularly coaches, and as you say, the Great Central Railway coaches, but also really high quality Great Western clerestory coaches would be nice to see, and some 4 and 6 wheelers too. I think that they would be particularly good to have in the market. Pre-grouping coaching stock has been sadly very, very lacking. All we've really had is the South Eastern and Chatham Railway coaches from Backman. Oh God, who's that ugly mug? Sorry, I'm just talking about the picture on the screen. But let's go back to talking head. We've had the South Eastern and Chatham Railway coaches, and the only other coaches, if you don't count the older Hornby clerestory Great Western coaches, would probably be the old mainline Midland coaches, which persisted into the Backman range, which ironically, if I hadn't have just switched views, the video that's going round, when it gets round to not that train, the other one, the one that's going the other way, those coaches, I think are technically sort of just about good for the Midland Railway. Yeah, there's plenty of coach and brake vans as well. I'd love to see a Great Central Railway brake van turn up. I'd like to see a Lancashire and Yorkshire brake van. We have had a London and North Western Railway London and South Western Railway brake van announced. We could do with the London and North Western Railway one. We could also do with London, Brighton and South Coast Railway dance hall brake van, and actually, a high quality one. I know there is one from Hornby, but it's getting long in the tooth. Right, let's have a look. Philip Page, I was at Llangollen yesterday, but the station was closed till next Monday. Yeah, preserved railways generally have some model shops there, but only tend to be open when the railway's open. There's actually not one, but three at the East Lancs Railway at Bury Bolton Street. Now you have to go hunting for them. There's one in the main station building at street level, and that's okay, but it's just new stuff. There's one in a Gov coach in one of the bay platforms that's run by, I think it's the Standard Class 4 Preservation Group. That's a pretty good one. And then there's another one underneath the main station building, which Les Cliff, who you may remember from BLR, he always swears by it. He says he gets some really good stuff there. Scott Cameron, no hobby shops in northeast Florida either. Nothing but a Hobby Lobby within 6 miles from home near St. Augustine. I must admit, Tampa Bay, and this is going back a long time. We're talking 30 years. There used to be one in Tampa Bay, but I presume it's just gone. Brockwell Lane, do you think TT gauge will ever make a comeback? Seems like a nice compromise between OO and N. I don't think it will, in all honesty. TT or 3mm does still persist, but it's the preserve of more specialist modelers who like to make their own stuff. And I think the reason that TT won't make a comeback is because N-gauge has become so good of late. And it's really the reason that TT kind of died out excuse me, in the first place was that N-Gauge came along. James Hart, Murphy's Models, based in Dublin. Right, that makes sense. I didn't know whether they had a branch elsewhere. I know they've done models suitable for Northern Ireland before now. They've done the, I think was it the N-Class that was made for the Northern Irish Railways. Brockwell Lane, Great Central Coaches, good call. Yeah, definitely. Because when you think about it, Butler Henderson was produced for the National Railway Museum, but now we've got, is it Mons? There's now 2 of the D11, the director class locomotives out there. We've also got a J11 in Great Central livery, and there was a Robinson 8K in the Great Central livery. So the locomotives are out there. So I think coaches, definitely. And of course, those coaches, a lot of these coaches persisted into the London and North Eastern Railway era, and some of them, only some, lasted into BR times. So in terms of a modelling prospect, they're not actually niche as much as maybe the manufacturers are thinking. They've got potential. So really, we need to see the manufacturers produce them instead of obsessing about Mark 1 liveries and Mark 2 and Mark 3 liveries. They need some of the pre-grouping coaches. D827 Kelly, Kerno did London and South Western Railway gate stock too. Yes, they did. However, they did them in the rebuilt condition, which is only suitable for Southern Railway, I believe. They're not suitable for the London and South Western Railway period. Let's have a look. Leslie Gilpin, local shop is 25 miles away. Lord and Butler in Cardiff. Oh gosh, my grandfather used to go there to get his supplies back in the day. But yeah, Lord and Butler, I've seen them advertised, and when I was very, very small, I can remember going in there. Graph B, when I go to London, I try to go to Jane's Trains in Tooting. Very traditional model railway shop, lots of goodies. I didn't know about that one. I'll have to look into that. Mallard the Duck, although there are no model shops, there are a good preserved railway near me. It's called the Battlefield Line. I recommend it. Yes, definitely. There's also, I'm trying to think, what else is close? It's the Midland Railway. That's a little bit further north, but certainly Battlefield Line is a good line. It'd be interesting to see if they've got any plans to extend it. Certainly, they have the potential to extend it in 3 different directions, if I remember correctly. Let's have a look. Mallard the Duck, how do you know about model shops? There is a model shop directory online, but a lot of it is word of mouth. Doing a Google search can sometimes show up the ones which don't advertise openly, the more obscure ones. But also get yourself a copy of something like Model Rail, BRM or Railway Modeller, and have a good look in the back of that, and that'll give you a sense of what model shops there are out there. Flymo Chairman one, I haven't seen a model shop in mid-Scotland at all. Yeah, I suppose the problem is that since the Model Zone empire collapsed and they went into administration and went bankrupt, there used to be a lot of Model Zone shops, and they were a great boon for being able to get stuff. They weren't necessarily the cheapest, but they were there, they were on the high street, and it made stuff accessible. But since then, it really has been slim pickings. Mallow the Duck, how do you know about so many model shops, Jenny? Like I said, pretty much just experience. You're talking 30 odd years plus of experience of going to various model shops. A lot of them still exist from way back in the day. 53A models. They were going when I was a child, the model shop's still on the go, still in the same shop. Hatton's has been going since year dot. Rails of Sheffield too. But just look in the back of the modelling magazines and it'll give you a good idea of quite a few of the model shops that are out there. There are still a lot out there. Train Sporting South East have to pop off. I've got volunteering on a heritage railway. Good for you. Always good to volunteer at these things. It's how they keep running. So good on you, and hope to see you here again soon. So you have yourself a great evening. Mallard the Duck, I wonder when the next Hornby J36s will come out. I believe that, in fact, actually, let's just pause that. Let's go and have a look at locomotives, steam locomotives. Let's go and see if we can see. I'm told about May for the TTS sound fitted North British loco, and in fact, yeah, there's another one that I really want. I want a North British brake van, so that when I get my North British moored J36, I've got a brake van to go on the end of the train. So let's have a look and see what. Let's have a look. Not recommended, because it always gets it wrong. Let's try this. I'm just going to see if I can see. I think it's May for the J36. Let's have a look. Leslie Gilpin, many pre-grouping bogie coaches till around 1960 on excursion stock. Yeah, definitely. Until the mass cull after the Mark 1s came in, then it's simply a case that a lot of them persisted in secondary workings. That's already available. Oh, interesting. No, they're J15. Duh. Let's have a look. J16. I don't want to use the search because actually no. Let's try. Oh God, it's slow. Let's see. J36. Let's see what happens if I do a search for J36. Oh, here we are. Let's have a look. Out of stock. Hague. That must be. There's only 2 listed. It's strange. I thought there was a late BR crest, and an LNER one. They might be in the newer release. Yeah, there we go. Expected. I'm pointing at a screen like you can see me, but you can't. Expected May 2019. So that's when we're going to be seeing this little beauty. Let's have a look. Yeah, Leslie Gilpin, pre-grouping bogie coaches. Yeah, they lasted right through, and it's really the big cull, and actually the same cull that got rid of a lot of the locomotives, the coaches that British Rail built, but to pre-BR designs, things like the Monsell coaches, the Churchwood coaches. They were culled as well. The LMS Porthole coaches, even though they weren't that much older than the Mark 1 coaches. So that was when the big cull happened. But some of the 4-wheelers and 6-wheelers did persist in departmental use. So there's still scope for the 4-wheel and the 6-wheelers to come out in departmental liveries for a later period. Great Central Railway near me as well. Mallard the Duck. Yeah, you've got north and south. So there will undoubtedly be a shop in the southern part. I don't think there is in the northern one, but there is a model shop in. Oh, what were they called? I can't for the life of me remember their name, but there's at least 1, possibly 2 model shops in Nottingham as well. Mr. Dreaded 88, what English locomotives do you suggest starting off with? For whatever reason, I love their lines and colours. Now, that's a toughie. I'd have to know a little bit more, I guess, about do you like steam or diesel? And in terms of periods, you're looking at BR, post-BR. BR falls into, you've got like sectorisation, you've got the BR green period that is around the same time as some of the steam locomotives, but I particularly like the eye candy of the pre-grouping, which is pre-1923. So the locomotive you're seeing on your screen there is a J36, but this particular livery, even though this is the preserved livery, it's a rendition of the original North British livery that it would have carried back when it was new in the 1890s, something like that, 1900s. And I think a lot of these pre-grouping liveries, if you can get them, are... there's a police car just going past. Now that is most peculiar. We had a lot of police cars turn up the other night. You know when you call the police and say, we got no officers in your area... Well, and there goes another one. I don't know if you can hear that. But I can see the lights are still flashing. So, just give me a moment. I want to see what's going on. Actually, no, I'm not going to rubberneck. But we had about 6 police cars turn up just down the road at about 2 in the morning, and then proceeded to kick their way into one of the houses over the way. So, Mr. Dreaded 88, love the steam engines. My personal recommendation then would be like the one you see on your screen. If you want a bigger locomotive with a tender, you could probably do no worse than the one you're seeing there, the J36 Maud. In terms of other ones, if you want to go smaller, W4, these have got a lot of character. Yeah, I think they've gone. I suspect they were using the road as a cut through because it runs parallel with the main road. So weird. Oh, there's a kid just run past. I think they're chasing a couple of scroats. Right. In terms of if you, oh gosh, it's weird, isn't it? Police officers glow in the dark. Well, when you watch them on an infrared camera, right? If you want a smaller locomotive, now what you should be seeing on your screen is a Peckett W4, and these are tiny, tiny little locomotives. So this is being released as a set. So you're seeing the locomotive plus the 3 wagons. But that particular locomotive, they do in quite a few different liveries. So if I go back, hopefully when this wakes up, here's a nice blue one. I think this is Port of London livery. I'm not quite sure. But these have got a lot of character to them. So really, it's just, do you want a fancy, standout, colourful locomotive, which is personally what I'd go for, then small, go for these, big, go for something like that J36. But then there's also some of the signature locomotives. If we go and have a hunt for an A4, you can't go wrong with an A4 Pacific. And again, there's an awful lot of different ones here. So you can have Eleanor Garter Blue. Let's have a look here. Mallard, the locomotive that holds the speed record for a steam locomotive. That's a very iconic locomotive. So, I have a soft spot for A4s. So, yeah, that would be my recommendations. Jefferish. I'm massacring the pronunciation there. Hi Jen, new subscriber here. Well, hello, welcome to you. Thanks for subscribing. Great channel, nice layout in your shed. Well, thank you very much. If you'd been here at the beginning of the live chat, you'd have heard about the layout that's going in the loft. I'm just converting the loft at the moment, which basically involves boarding it out, lining it, insulating it. And there's going to be a huge layout in there. I reckon conservatively 4 to 5 times the area that I've got in the shed, but with the potential to go 2 layers. So, astronomically huge. So really looking forward to that. So let's get trains running by in the background for a bit whilst let's have a look. Oh, that going round there is my other Duchess, which is a lovely locomotive in the LMS Crimson Lake Maroon. That's a lovely livery as well. Scott Malcolm, greetings to you, Ontario, Canada. Brilliant. So we're getting people from all around the globe. I love this. And that's the other thing about live chat, is you get to chat with people from all over the globe. And we haven't had Angus in today. I suspect that he's got sport swimming, I think it is, that he does in the morning in Australia. In fact, I think he's in tomorrow because of the way the international dateline works. We're not. We're all in the same moment in time, but because of the time zones, technically he's in tomorrow. So we get him from Australia. I think there's a couple of other people from Australia. We're getting Canada. We're getting Ireland. We're getting America, New York City. We had. Let's have a look. Michelle, 78. Evening, Jen. Evening to you. Love the A4s. Mallard just love it. Yeah, the A4s. I have about 5, maybe even 6 A4s. I have a real soft spot for them as well, and normally I wouldn't buy more than one of a particular class of loco unless there's something very special. And for me, the A4 is just whenever I see a new one second hand, which I don't already have, I just bag it and tag it because they are a lovely locomotive. Yeah, Flymo Chairman 1, Princess Victoria and LMS Maroon. Yeah, it's a lovely livery, isn't it? A lovely locomotive and a lovely livery. Castle Junction, Jenny's on the move from her shed to the loft. Yeah, I haven't decided what's going to happen to the layout in the shed yet. Effectively, is that? Hello?
Hello.
Oh, you're back?
Yes. Hi, honey. I'm home.
Hi. What were all those police cars racing past for? Did you see them?
No.
Oh, 2 police cars raced past the house.
Sorry, hon. Didn't see that.
Oh, my eyes on the ground didn't see. But let's have a look. Jen's on the move. Shed up. Yeah. I might reuse some of not Grove Street. Yeah. Trinity Road in the loft. There may be provision to rejig the actual station and also the bit where the signal box is and reuse them. So I might do that. Let's have a look. Mr. Dreaded 88, America, Delaware. Oh, hi. You're in Delaware. Sorry, Wayne's World joke there. But no, actually, Delaware looked nice when I went and looked at pictures because I was just curious of what Delaware actually looked like. So it's great to have you along. What are you doing? Look, just go and get your booze, and whilst you're there, can you bring me another one? Because
I don't have any booze. I've got non-alcoholic perry.
Yeah, right, okay.
Because I is a lightweight, you.
Yes, you are. Right, anyway.
Do you have their bottle opener?
No, I don't. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, Jeffrish got 3 A4s, Backman Peregrine, Hornby Commonwealth of Australia, and Mallard, all in garter blue livery. Yeah, they are lovely. I've not got Peregrine, but I've got, I've got Dominion of New Zealand, which is my Backman one. The Backman one's not bad, but the Hornby one I think is better. Andrew Keeley, Scott Malcolm, a question for Scott Malcolm there. BRMNA member, British Railway Modeller North America member. So Flymo Chairman 1, it'll be teenage tykes thieving with mopeds the police are chasing probably. Actually, round here it's normally druggies. There's quite a problem with cannabis farms and the drug runners that move the drugs around. We've also had a pedo house busted down the street. I make it sound like it's a really bad area. It's not. It's like anything. You have a really nice area and all it takes is 1, maybe 2 groups of people to move in and really lower the tone. So it's not a bad area. It's just there's a couple of oh, what was that? Oh, I did wonder where that Kirby grip had gone. So basically, it just takes a couple of to move in, and it gives the illusion that there's a lot of naughtiness going on. So look, Bolton Trinity Loft. Well, no, it's going to be Tyne Marshalling Yard, possibly with an upper level that will be Kirby Stephen East, and may incorporate parts of Bolton Trinity Road. Brockwell Lane. Have you ever been to the Severn Valley Railway? It's one of my favourites. I have, but not for about 30 years. I've got a friend actually who lives near Bewdley who keeps encouraging me to go and visit, so I will probably do that. Ben Davis, hi, I hope everyone is doing well. Yesterday got the new GWR diesel rail car, number 24 R3669 for 45. It's great. Brilliant. Yeah, they're called the Flying Banana or something, aren't they? I've never had one of those myself, but I know is it O-Gauge? I think, is it Helgen do one in O-Gauge, and it looks something really special. Dungewood Model Railway. Hi Jenny, big fan of the 8F and Black 5. Yeah, Black 5, Hornby have just released their TTS chip. It's sold out with Hornby, but I checked with box shifters, and for the balance of fairness, because quite often go to Hatton's, this is Rails of Sheffield, and they are showing the Black 5 TTS decoder is in stock, so it is still available out there. The 8F. Oh, thank you. Give. Stop messing about when it comes to booze. The 8F, yeah, that is a great model, actually. I'd forgotten about the 8F, the Stanier 8F. I'd love to see a warmed over model. The Hornby model, I think, is a little bit, it's kind of bridging that between the older models and the newer models, or at least it always used to be. So I must investigate that. But I've never yet got an 8F other than my old childhood Hornby 008Fs, and I had three. I had 48158, 48073, and 48109 were the three that I had. Lovely, lovely models. Russell Benton, having to move off. Good night, Jenny. Great chat. Good night to you too. Thanks very much. Hope to see you again. And we'll be doing this again 7 o'clock GMT next Monday. But it's been great to have you along. Let's have a look. Castle Junction. I have to go now, Jenny. See you next Monday. Yeah, okay. Well, look, thanks for watching. And you have yourself a great night. And I'll see you then as well. Ben Davis, cool acquisition, mate. Yeah, the Flying Banana, that's a pretty good price actually as well. Let's have a look. Mallard the Duck, I live in a village and the post office. Oh, right, so you always catch the last post. Mallard the Duck, oh, closed because there were 2 armed robberies. Yeah, they did. There was an armed robbery on our local post office as well because our CCTV cameras caught the perps making their getaway. So the police came round and got some of our CCTV footage to help identify the scumbags who ripped it off. Brockwell Lane, if you could go back in time to the steam era and work on the railway, what job would you choose? I'm not sure, to be honest with you. I think probably in terms of getting out, I like to go out and about and see places. So you'd probably say an engine driver. Not a fireman or a clean, definitely not a cleaner, but an engine driver stroke some kind of manager, even a station manager would probably be quite a great job, especially if you had an interesting station to work at. But I don't know. Creeping Jane, I prefer rails. It still feels like a shop. Hatton's is a bit like Argos. Yeah, I must admit, I went to Hatton's last week. I took the Volvo out for a run. I just changed the inlet air, the idle air control valve, and I needed a good run just to settle it, bed it in, and make sure everything was all right. So I went over that, and I know what you mean. It's like they didn't even have everything on display in cabinets, so it was actually quite hard, unless you knew in advance what you wanted, to get stuff. And that kind of, I felt a little bit alienated with that. Great mail order, but I like to browse. Sometimes I don't know what I want to buy until I see it, if that makes sense. Let's have a look. So yeah, actually rails is one which I've never been to, but I keep meaning to, so I must go and visit rails. Now, I've used Rails mail order and no complaints at all, but I would like to go and visit the shop. Jefferish, just bought my first Hornby Merchant Navy class off eBay. Lamport and Holt line. These were made for the Royal Wessex set, and I got the full mint box set for 140. That's a good price, actually. So is it with like Pullman coaches or something? But certainly a Merchant Navy class. I've got an unrebuilt one, which again I paid roughly about that for the set, and that came with 3. It was the locomotive in Southern Railway livery and 3 Pullman coaches, if I remember correctly. The super detail ones, and I got it for a similar sort of price, mint in box, and I was well chuffed. So I think you got yourself a bargain there, because I think the locomotive alone costs more than that, so that's pretty good going. Ben Davis, I think I got 9A4. Yeah, they are a locomotive that keeps on giving. The Backman A4 still actually holds its own. I've got Dominion of New Zealand is my Backman one, and it's all right, but the Hornby one is definitely better, it has to say. So D827 Kelly, to be a driver you'd have to be a cleaner and fireman for a good while. Yeah, you had to work your way up. Andrew Keeley, switch box operator. I presume that's the same as a signalman, working the signal box. Yeah, it could probably get quite busy though, and you'd feel very tethered to it. I don't know. I'm not sure I'd want to be a signalman, but let's have a look. Mallow the Duck. Sorry, I keep accidentally posting comments before I finish writing them. Don't worry about it. Sometimes it's easy to do, so don't worry about it. Brockwell Lane. I would have liked to be a guard in my own brake van. Actually, yeah, that's a good one, isn't it? So I hadn't thought of that. If you had your own brake van, then yeah, that would be brilliant. Past rails every day for a few years, never went in, then moved to Canada. Scott Malcolm. Yeah, I've driven past it, but again, I haven't been in it. But there's actually several other shops in Sheffield as well, because there's Markway and there's Sharp. Is it Sharp as well? Oh, is it? No, Olivia's Trains. Ben Davis, thanks. Yep. Yeah. Let's have a look. Malad the Duck. What's your favourite model of all time? Well, I've said this time and time again. I really love the Hornby, which is the former Adpull model of the ex-Lancashire and Yorkshire Railway Pug. I just, there's something about that model. I really like it. So that does rate really, really highly. That said, I also like my Robinson 8K. Creeping Jane. By the way, is it you on drums and guitar in your theme tune? No, it isn't. I cannot play guitar at all in the slightest. You do see me playing drums, but the drums that you hear in the music are not me. I think it's GarageBand that was put together from. So it's put together from royalty-free samples is how that works. I would love to be better at playing drums, and I know it probably makes me a bit odd that I want to be a drummer. But that's the instrument that always attracted me. I would have also liked to learn how to play the piano, but never quite got round to it. Andrew Keeley, guess so. Remember, I'm American and not fluent all the nomenclature. No, don't worry about it. It's different terms in different places. I know that in America they have a lot of different terms for railway personnel, and it doesn't make them wrong, doesn't make them it's just different cultures. So you've got a caboose on the end rather than a brake van, and actually if you've ever seen inside an American or a Canadian caboose, now they are pretty spacious. It had bunks and everything in. So an American or Canadian caboose being the brakeman in that would probably be a really good job back in the day. D827 Kelly, quite solitary according to my friend who used to be a signalman, depending on the type of bus. Yeah, I can imagine long periods of time on your own, you'd feel very isolated. 57305 Northern Princess, I've got the 6 A4s from the Great Goodbye set and it cost me £1,000. Yeah, that was an expensive set, and I kept looking at it and thinking that is something special, but it's one of those things that's a lot of money to put down in one big go, and I just could never justify it. Flymo Chairman one, it's a YouTube entertainment. Jenny, you're making me thirsty. Oh, Right, well, we've done the Italian beer. So I'm going to a nice Old Faithful. This is Stella Artois. Let's make it go full screen. Full screen. So we're moving on now to Stella Artois. So we've gone from Italian to Belgian. So no particular preference. It's just what was on offer. They were on 2 for £4. That's actually a very different beer. It's a much lighter beer. Helped, no doubt, by being fresh from the fridge. So let's have a look. Brockwell Lane. I wondered about the guitar. Is that that's my other passion? Yeah, no, I've never really had an inkling towards the guitar. There is a guitar in the house, but it's Zoe that plays the guitar. Defans GWR. Hello to you. Good to have you along. So Mallow the Duck, I play guitar. Yeah, a lot of people A lot of people do. It's a very popular instrument, but not really one that ever appealed to me, it has to be said. For me, drums and keyboards held the attraction, and drums are the ones which I actually learnt a little bit of how to play. Brockwell Lane, I'm also drinking beer as I watch you. Oh, yes, right. Cheers. Ding, ding. I'm not going to actually smack it into the camera because that would probably be a bit silly. Of course, I'm now getting slightly drunk, so as the regulars to this channel know, when Jenny's had a few drinks, then Jenny gets a little bit scatty. Mallow the Duck, I am too young for beer. Yeah, don't worry about it. I also drink other stuff as well, so I've got some flavoured water here too, so yeah, I did dry January, so I spent a month not having any alcohol, but it's not the be-all and end-all. I just felt like a beer. I've been working up in the roof space all day, so let's have a look. Angus's Trains, hi to you. Oh, we were just mentioning, I mentioned earlier on that I was wondering where you were. It's good to have you along. Nice to see you again. We've been talking about the developments up in the loft. Been lining that out. It's going really quite well, actually. So there will hopefully be an update on that. If not this week, then possibly next week is the way it's probably going to go. Flymo Chairman one, I was thinking about fiddly yards or include a round-the-room mainline under the detail boards. Possibly with DCC, if I can get my head around it. Yeah, DCC, as I've discovered, isn't too difficult in the end. So I'd well recommend it. But where's she going? I can hear she going in and out the front door. She's probably going to the shop for something. Yeah, fiddle yards, I think, certainly, especially if you've got a lot of stock, having a yard where you can put stuff on the track and leave it on the track is worth its weight in gold. And it's one of the reasons that I wanted to build in the loft, is so that I could just leave stuff on the track. And for example, I've got a class 411, excuse me, which is a 4-car semi-permanently connected electrical multiple unit. And it's a pain to get on and off the track. If you have to take it off, put it away, put it back. So at the moment it just lives in a display cabinet. But I would love to just have it on the track so I can run it at leisure, because it's a lovely thing. Angus's Train, you play guitar? Yeah. So Flymo Chairman 1, you play the guitar. There's a lot of guitarists here. Brockwell Lane, don't drink, kids. Yeah, well, actually, you get very dehydrated if you didn't drink. Yeah, don't drink to excess. That's the thing. At the end of the day, drink needs to be respected. If you're going to drink alcohol, respect it. Don't let it take over your life. Angus's Trains, Hunter Valley Steamfest is on sale now. All right. Yeah, because I must admit, it's an area. If I do eventually get to go to Australia, I do want to visit. There's the Richmond Vale Railway, the South Maitland Railway, places like that. I'd love to go and visit. And obviously swing through... Oh, there's also the Puffing Billy Railway. And I need to swing through Warrigal, which is where a lot of my family live. Let's have a look. 57305 Northern Princess. The other coaches I'd love to see model are the Mark II Pullmans and the XP64 coaches. Yeah, I'm trying to think. Mark II Pullmans. I'm trying to think what they look like. I know the Mark I Pullmans are quite interesting little things. Backman have done models of them. You're probably getting a little bit more niche, potentially. But how did the XP64 coaches differ from either Mark 1s or Mark 2s? Devan's GWR. I'm thinking of getting the 3000 rod with Olivia's sound. The 3000 rod at the moment, Hattons have got. They sold out of the ready weathered ones, but let's go and have a look. Hattons have still got, or at least they did still have, the 3000 rod, which I presume it might be where you're getting your 3000 class rod from. Let's just have a look. Oh, Backman. I've gone way past Backman. Again, have I? There we are, Backman branch line, and we want steam locos. There we go. That's the limited edition one. Here we are. It's a really good price, I have to say. I don't like to endorse specific retailers or manufacturers, but Hattons have this locomotive you're seeing on your screen at a really good price, £59. And I'll be honest with you, I fitted mine with I think I put in a Castle class TTS chip. And that's the way I went with sound for my 3000 class rod. I thought the Castle would have the right sounding whistle, and as a price compromise, because the Olivia's sound is very expensive. But yeah, it's a good model. Scott Malcolm, I have the APTE, which is permanently coupled to only fault the lights are always on. Yeah, you may be able to turn them off on DCC. I'm not sure. Let's have a look. What is it? Angus Treasure, you talking about me? Angus, because we were talking about people talking from all around the world. Yeah, no, it's just I mentioned, Angus, that I was just wondering where you were, because you'd been to the previous live events. That was all it was. Because we've got people in from Canada, North America, Ireland. I think there's somebody else in from Australia as well. So I was just saying, it's nice to get a global reach. It is good. But let's have a look. Jefferish, how many electrical feeds do you have on your garden section? Does it perform all right when it's wet? Right, the garden section is no more in 00. I didn't have any specific dedicated track feeds to it. The track feed was just what it got from within the shed going through the rails, and it worked perfectly fine. I soldered wires across the rail joints. You still had expansion joints. That's important, especially when you've got stuff out in the garden. But I didn't need any extra track feeds. At the moment, I've got O gauge. I've redeveloped it into O gauge, and again, it only needs one track feed, and it performs faultlessly in the wet. The problem you get is, it runs nice in the dry. It runs fine when it goes from dry to wet. So say it gets wet, as long as it was clean beforehand, that's fine. It will still run even though the track's wet. In fact, to the point where it can actually go through puddles. It's quite peculiar to watch, but it's, water is largely an insulator to some degree. Certainly stuff that's come as rain, because that's effectively distilled water. But when it then dries from wet to dry, for some reason it gets almost like a coating on the rails, and you have to clean it. Let's have a look. I think the XP64s were based on the Mark 1 body shell, Graph B. Oh, right, okay. I never knew. Creeping Jane. Oh, I love Sulzers. Yeah, Sulzers are... I do like Class 24s and 25s, things like that. Yeah, they're still on the go, actually. They've got a place in Leeds. D827 Kelly. I should have my 2 SLW 24s turning up this week, finally. Yeah, I'd be interested to hear what you think about them, because I'll be honest, I'm sticking with the Backman ones because I know that I'm going to otherwise end up spending a huge amount of money. Devans GWR might be back later. Oh, well, you take care, have yourself a great evening, and see you later perhaps. Christopher's Music. Hello, Jennifer. Enjoying your shed chat each week. So informative. Thank you very much. Good to have you along. Jefferish, thanks for that, Jen. I was thinking of expanding into the garden. It's great, actually. The garden gives you a lot of space to run prototypical length trains, and I think that there's nothing more impressive than seeing 70 or 80 wagons snaking their way around prototypical curves behind locomotives out in the garden in the sunshine. Really, really good fun I had with that. Let's have a look. Angus's train spot. See you later, Angus. Good to have you along, and hopefully join us again next week, 7 o'clock GMT. We'll be having another Shed Chat live. I don't know why. Oh, I see what's happened. Sorry, I just for some reason the the videos are all mixed up. It's just playing a playlist. So, oh, there's me on drums again. Flymo Chairman 1. Jenny, it was your garden layout that mainline underneath that lit my butt. Ah, right. No problem. No problem. Cranky Chris. For Mallard the duck, the garden is an Australian passenger. Right. Right. Let's have a look. Brockwell Lane, Hornby Railroad, GWR Hall Class at Hattons for £49 is also a great deal. There are some good deals on it, has to be said. They started just before Christmas, so some of them have sold out, some of them are still going, such as that 3000 rod, which in all honesty with you, I will probably pick that up at some point. Once I've bought all the many things that I need to buy, if there's any money left over and that offer is still running and they still have them left, then I will probably pick one up just because that's a price that you can't ignore. DH7 Kelly, XP64s were Mark 1s with Mark 2 features. Right, they ended up in Australia. Oh, right, as I knew some Mark 2s got exported to Australia. I didn't realise the XP64s did. Oh, that's nice. I like transport. Hello. Well, hello to you. Good to have you along. Flymo Chairman 1, is that right, Cranky? So did they get the 464 on the go before end of... Ah, right. No, sorry, this is the Garn Railway in Australia. D827 Kelly, I will likely have put up a test track in the Merg DCC system so I can run them. May post video on YouTube. The sound is amazing, though. Oh, that'd be interesting. Flymo Chairman 1, yep, you're welcome. Let's have a look. Yeah, Chris Tarrant's done a lot of train-related videos. In fact, to the point where before they announced the presenter for Biggest Little Railway, and they were being super secretive about it, I was actually wondering whether it was going to be Chris Tarrant who was going to do that, but it turned out to be Dick Strawbridge. D827 Kelly, if you're interested in interesting prototype locomotives, the KRGT3 is nearing the go-ahead, needing about 140 expressions of interest currently. Yeah, we're getting models of things that we never thought that we'd get models of. And in fact, right on cue, the locomotive that you just saw on the screen there was the Adams Radial, which is probably one that falls into that category. And, we've ended up with two manufacturers going head-to-head with that. Right. I'm just wondering why that's... Oh, yeah, that hit the camera. That was what that was. We used to put outtakes on the end. Right. Anyway, what I need to do now is I am going to say again, Hornby... prototype Mark IIs were built at Swindon. I didn't realise that, actually. I never really thought about where they were... Right, let's have a look. Just need to pause that. I promised earlier on that we would do... No. Why is that just... Why has the computer started doing weird things? Right, I'm going to just... Aha! Right, what I want to do now is I'm going to show you, I got this from Arcadia Models, but, other model shops are available, and I got this second hand. So we've got the Bass ZDA Open Wagon in BR Brown. It's a model that's been out for quite some time, but if I can find a nice picture of it. It's been out for quite some time, and let's have a look. How is it? Just looking down the comments. Huh. Anyway, no. It's based on the OBA wagon, which Backman released quite some time ago now. They've done them in numerous different liveries, particularly the rail freight livery, EWS livery, plus more block freight as well with the high ends. But this is one that was in the catalogue a couple of years ago. And in all honesty, I would have picked it up then if it wasn't for the fact that there was just always other stuff that I wanted to buy. So showing you the ends there, they've got almost like a steel plate end. And they're a really nice model for the money. The sides are a bit on the thick side. And if I find a picture there, you can see that the sides are quite thick, but I think, you know, it's a necessary compromise to make them strong enough that they don't just disintegrate when you hold them. But excuse me, as you can see here, when it starts to play, Zoe did these, so excuse the jerkiness. The one downside on these that I do find is that the wheels on the underside are, let's just see if we can get that to go again. The wheels on the underside, if you see when they come around, they're not self-centering. They're on independent, almost like bogies. The Hornby version of the models, whilst lesser detailed, have a self-centering mechanism. And the problem with these is that they can have a habit of crabbing somewhat, especially if they're the final wagon in a train. So they can be prone to derailing. That said, you probably couldn't have a rigid four-wheel chassis because it wouldn't get round train set curves. But it's a lovely, lovely wagon, and for £12 as new in box, I have to say it offers pretty good value for money. Although new in the catalogue, they're going for some quite eye-watering prices these days. Yeah, Scott Malcolm, the wheel feature is a pain. It's the same across the OBA, the OCA, the VDA, VAA and VBA. And unfortunately, I think Backman have gone on to do a better mechanism that's employed with the Mark 1 horse boxes. But with these slightly older wagons, something we've got to put up with, unfortunately. The only solution I can find is if you put another wagon at the end of the train behind it. It just helps to pull it straight. So just find yourself an air-braked wagon that's not one of the long wheelbase vans or opens, and it just sorts that out. Let's have a look. D827 Kelly, better to use suspension like in P4 probably for such wagons, but not viable for ready to run. Yeah, I think it's a compromise between cost and effectiveness. But certainly the mechanism that some of the newer wagons are doing is arguably a lot better. Flymo Chairman 1, the Backman magazine I got at the weekend, was promoting 009 for authentic narrow gauge representation alongside 00 gauge. Yeah, Backman have gone in for 009 in a really big way, actually. It seems to be the new frontier, as it were. So it's interesting to see. Personally, I don't really go for 009, but it's interesting to see. And again, in some respects, 009 allows you to model in 00, but in a much more restricted space. And because they're narrow gauge, you can actually prototypically run around much tighter curves than you could even say an N gauge. So ironically, you can probably get a smaller continuous run 009 gauge model railway than you can in N gauge. Oh yes, DH7 Kelly and Helton, yeah, and Pico as well do coaches and wagons. But there's certainly a lot of whereas it used to be the thing that 009 was the preserve of kit building and kit bashing, and it was very, very fiddly, especially to get a decent running locomotive. But now, just off the shelf, they're there. Angus's Trains, Jenny, go to Hunter Valley Steamfest website. I will take a look at that at some point, but I'm going to have to go because my voice is starting to fail. The problem I've got is that being up in the loft, I was wearing a respirator mask to keep the dust out, but still your snot comes out afterwards like you've been on the London Underground. Anybody who's been on the London Underground knows that sort of black goop that comes out, and it's tickled the back of my throat somewhat. So I'm going to have to round up Shed Chat to a close. And it's been great having you all along. And thanks for watching. Don't forget to like the videos. Have a look back through on the channel. We've got an awful lot of videos that have been going up over the years. And there's always something there. I can feel the alcohol talking. It's like everybody says, oh yeah, Jenny will get drunk. And once she's drunk, she'll start talking rubbish. So go away. So I'm feeling slightly drunk now. Actually, I'm on my second bottle of beer. It's been a lot of work up in the loft. What I'm gonna do is tomorrow, hopefully, I'm gonna get a lot more progress up in the loft. I'm gonna film a lot more, and like I said to you before, there's going to be an update on the building of the layout in the loft. We're going to try and do a lot of updates on that as we go along, but there'll be an update coming, if not this week, then next week, because there's a lot going on. But until then, you take really good care of yourself. It's been great having you along, and hope to see you next week at 7 p.m. GMT. But until then, you take really good care of yourself. And this is me, Jennifer Kirk, saying take care and bye for now.